Iowa City Transit goes fare free. Plus, citizen scientists help us defeat the heat. Learn how the city provides clean drinking water to residents. And finally, a rescue mission gives these dogs a second chance. And it all starts right now on this edition of Iowa City in Focus. The city is making a major investment in public transportation. Fare-free Iowa City offers rides at no cost for a 2-year period with the hopes of studying the impacts of free transit.
We are on a mission to provide affordable and sustainable transportation to all of Iowa City.
The idea behind Fare-free Iowa City is simple. Eliminate the fee to get more people to ride the bus.
The fare itself can be a barrier for people, and we're trying to remove barriers because we want people to be able to rely on the transit system for more of their trips. So for 2 years, we are piloting what kind of effect it has on the community when everyone has this readily accessible and affordable resource available to them.
This 2-year pilot program kicked off in August of 2023, and the response was immediate.
If I don't have to worry about whether or not I have a transfer or how often I put my dollar, yeah, I'll definitely use it more.
Everything is just rising, the prices for everything. So if you can have some kind of convenience, at least to get to your appointments and get around, and maybe just get outside or something, interact. It's really convenient and it's helpful. 2 thumbs up to Iowa City for that one.
This benefits our customers and our climate action goals.
The city has a mission or a goal in the Climate Action Plan to enable 55% of vehicle trips to shift to more sustainable modes of transportation, such as walking, biking, taking transit. So the Fare-free Iowa City is a way for us to provide a service that can get more people into more sustainable modes of transportation.
The city will look at ridership numbers, cost of the program, and public feedback to determine the future of Fare-free. So no matter where you're heading,
I go to a lot of places like the library, the public pool.
Consider hopping on Iowa City Transit.
It definitely benefits us as people and the people for sure because, everybody has to commute to work, probably daycare provider, pick up the kids from school.
So it's all a helping hand with each other. And I think that's what Iowa City is doing, trying to give us a helping hand.
In an effort to become more resilient to rising temperatures, our climate action staff is working to take a scientific approach. Learn how citizen scientists were recently recruited to help us create a more livable community, both now and into the future. The City of Iowa City has acquired a new tool in the fight against climate change.
The Spot the Hat campaign was meant to help us determine the location of urban heat islands in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids.
For several years, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has been working with communities to take part in its Urban Heat Island Mapping campaign.
Urban heat islands are the phenomenon where the built environment, including roads, buildings, and especially parking lots, absorb and re-radiate heat throughout the day, making those areas much hotter than the surrounding community. So it can negatively impact the health and safety of people, especially the young, elderly, and those with respiratory and other health conditions.
In order to collect this data, local volunteers were recruited to help. Having community buy-in was a key factor in this process.
If there's going to be any change, whether it be locally or globally, it kind of has to start at the smallest level, starts at the micro level. People buy in, they believe that they can make a change, that they can do something.
As always, Iowa City answered the call with people of all different walks of life.
I'm a university student here at Iowa, and I am pretty interested in remote sensing aspects of sustainability where, you take data from around the town and then use it to improve city infrastructure.
So I teach AP Environmental Science at City High School, and I always encourage my students to get involved, and so I was excited to actually be able to get involved in some citizen science projects around the city.
One thing all these volunteers had in common is that they had each experienced the impacts of climate change on some level.
Weather events that are just not happening usually, like inches of rain in a day versus inches over a week, and you can just tell something's different.
I think everyone in the world has been impacted to some extent. I mean, everyone in Iowa experienced extreme heat, drought, the derecho came through. There's been a lot of impacts that we've experienced.
So, how do you find and map urban heat islands? Specialized sensors had to be mounted on vehicles to record temperature, humidity, time, and location. There were 5 different routes in total. Volunteers drove each of these routes at 3 different times of the day, 6 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. All that data collected by our citizen scientists was then sent off to our partners at Kappa Solutions to be compiled into an interactive heat map. Once completed, this map will help us identify heat islands and look for ways to provide relief in the impacted areas.
Urban heat islands can be mitigated by planting trees and other natural vegetation, green roofs, and reflective materials on roofs and buildings.
All this information will be available for the public to view on our website, icgov.org/keepcool.
Anytime you get people involved, it's a positive. This kind of lets you get involved and see the behind the scenes and understand, oh, this may be why I have to run my air conditioning five times more than my neighbor does who has 2 trees in his yard and I don't have any.
I think it's important for regular people like me to understand the science behind kind of what's going on in climate change and things like that. Making it so the knowledge is accessible for everyone is also very important.
The more aware people are, the better off it is for everyone. And so when people realize that there's a problem and they can realize how we can come together and come up with solutions, the more effective it's going to be. And so I think it's very powerful to incorporate as many people as you can in projects like this.
With this new tool and the support of our residents, we're now better equipped to beat the heat.
Nice job.
I'm thankful to live in a community like Iowa City that cares so much about its people and its community, and that they give opportunities to people to do work like this.
The world isn't the same as it was 10, 20 years ago. Before I was alive, I don't know what that world looks like. And I'm never going to, but I can change the world or try to do my part to make the world a better place for my future.
often take for granted that all we have to do to get clean drinking water is turn on the tap. Let's take a virtual tour of the city's water plant to learn about the process that provides this critical service. Iowa City operates a publicly owned water utility to provide our residents with fresh, clean drinking water. Completed in 2003, this plant produces 6 million gallons of drinking water each day. That's about 2 billion gallons of purified water annually. The process all begins with a series of wells that can draw water from a variety of depths. The plant's location along the Iowa River allows the water to filter through coarse sand, creating a better raw water from the start of the purification process. The water is pumped from the wells to the aerator, or head tank, which sprays the water to allow unneeded gases to expel. One cool fact, the plant is designed so that from this point on, the water flows purely on gravity. The next stop is the clarifiers. Water circulates in these nearly 300,000 gallon tanks in order to soften the water. Because Iowa sits on a bedrock of limestone, the water is hard. The pH level is raised and calcium carbonate separates and settles at the bottom of the tank. After around 2 hours in the clarifiers, the water moves to the recarbonation tanks. This acts kind of like a big seltzer bottle, adding CO2 that was lost in the softening process. Now that it's stabilized, the water must be filtered. It passes through a series of granular activated carbon filters. Acting as both a physical and chemical filter, this product is particularly effective at removing any remaining impurities in the water. Next, things move underground, passing through chlorine contact tanks and into the ground storage reservoirs. As the water flows through the underground system, fluoride is added to help people's teeth and chlorine to kill off any remaining bacteria. The finished water is now ready for the final step, delivery. Without any water towers, this requires the continuous use of large pumps. The water travels through the city's 280 miles of underground pipes and directly into your home. This entire process is carefully monitored by our dedicated staff of about 30 employees. The water plant has its own lab for routine testing and completes an annual consumer confidence report. This top-notch facility, our devoted team, and sustainable practices provide a steady, reliable supply of quality drinking water. We are committed to upholding this standard to Iowa City residents. The staff and volunteers at the Iowa City Animal Care and Adoption Center provide a lot of different services. Thankfully, it doesn't happen often, but when an emergency arises, the entire team and the community come together to tackle it head on.
just dogs and dogs and dogs and dogs. And you just look up and all these dogs see you and they're barking. And so that was a shock. There were puppies with no bedding, moms and puppies, no bedding, no nothing, and they're just laying on cold concrete. That was kind of sad to see.
That day was about 100 degrees, so there was no way we could move dogs into just regular cargo without air condition. So it was a huge benefit to have those 3 groups come and help and assist us.
There were a lot of working pieces. It was a whirlwind. It was definitely a whirlwind.
We had to set up temporary kennels in our temporary location, so that took a lot of time and effort.
Some of us are transfer coordinators, some of us are medical coordinators, volunteer coordinators, that we all kind of are working together to turn all the spokes of this wheel so that everything is moving as efficiently as possible.
We couldn't have done it without the volunteers. There's just no way.
Volunteers are super important. We don't have a very large staff here, so when something like this does happen, we need that extra support. It was definitely an all hands on deck moment. We were able to get, I think it was probably 30 volunteers helping us out there, over here. People coming to help cleaning in the morning, getting the dogs out, getting the dogs fed, and then we've made sure to not neglect our dogs and cats that we already had here, so we've had volunteers in socializing and walking dogs as well.
We had parvovirus break out and some puppies were very ill, and so they really stepped up and said, we will treat them.
Since then, it's basically been people pulling up their cars, dropping stuff off, and just wanting to be as helpful as possible. We have pretty much everything we'll ever need now. We've got dog food, dog toys, dog beds, bowls, trash cans.
Oh my gosh, it's been amazing. Working in this field, you forget sometimes how good society can be and how good the community is that we live in, so it's been really humbling and nice to see and be reminded of that.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for watching.